All right, let's take a look at practice exercise 8.3, and we're going to be looking at the selection structures if, else, if to determine this problem here. So we have a rocket, has 3 stages, and it has the burnout stage. You have where it separates from the missile, stage lights, and so on and so forth. I'll let you read this in detail. Essentially, what happens is at different times in the launch, you're in either stage 1, 2, 3, and then finally, if you're outside of stage 3, you're going to be free flight unpowered. So what we need to do is come up with a selection structure. It says to come up with a function, but before we do the function, I'm going to just give you the code, how you would write it in a script file, then we can convert it into a function. So we can, many ways you can do it. You can, define a variable stage, and you can hard code the stage, like say 33 seconds or whatever, but I'm not going to do that. I want to ask the user input actual timing. So I'm going to say provide the current time in seconds, just to get that unit clear there, and do a space there, and then something like that. Okay, so we're asking the user input the number there, and then based on that we're going to do selection structure. So we're going to say if stage is greater than 0 based on the intervals that were given, and you can use 1 ampersand or 2 ampersands, both should work. Stage less than or equal to 100. Okay, and I'll let you determine whether you want to include the 100 in this first stage or you want to include the 100 in the second stage, and that's pretty much depending on whether you want to use less than or equal to or just less than there. Okay, if that's the case, all we're going to do is going to say, okay, you are in stage 1 flight. Just put on the display that stage 1 flight, or some message to let the user know or the pilot know that, okay, they're in stage 1 flight. Because we have a couple different alternatives, we can't just say if and end there, and we can't just say if and else. We're going to have to use else if in between there. So whenever you have just more than one potential options, you want to put else if, else if, else if, else if, until the final option, which is going to be else. So we're going to do else if in this case, and then we're just going to type in stage in the conditions there. So greater than 100 and stage less than or equal to, this is the way I decide to choose this, 170. Okay, and then in this case we're just going to say display stage 2 flight, and just make our life easy, just make it something simple, stage 2 flight. And then I'm just going to copy and paste here. Okay, control, do that. Stage greater than 170 and less than 260, less than or equal to 260. We're going to say stage 3 flight. Okay, so we got stage 3 flight there. And then finally, our last alternative, else, we're going to be in free flight. Yes, B display free flight. Again, you can put whatever message you want, and then we want to end all of this here. So essentially, this is how we're going to run this. So let's go ahead and run this code here and make sure it works. Okay, and you want to test it for different cases, the boundaries and stuff. So let's just go ahead and highlight this. Okay, please provide the time in current seconds. I'm going to choose in the first stage. Let's just say 50 seconds. Okay, so it's telling me stage 1 flight. Okay, I can do this again, and I'm going to say maybe 300 seconds, and it tells me free flight. Okay, so with that said, that's essentially what you want to do. Now what you can do, so we got stage here. This guy, I want to put a semicolon there so we don't get this stage output each time. So we can suppress that, but it just gives us the answer. So, but the question is saying, okay, we want to create a function. To create a function, it's simple. So the key to create a function, remember, is it has to be a separate file. So I can just go in here. I'm not going to ask the user to input a number. We're just going to input it ourselves. So we're just going to do a new script file here. I'm going to paste it here. But remember, when you create a function, the very first word should be function on the very first line. And I'm just going to say output. In this case, I'm going to say output is going to be equal to, and I'm going to call the function flight, and my input is going to be stage. Okay, so if I do that, I'm going to make sure everything's okay. My stage matches here, stage is good here. The only thing that's missing here is that I'm getting this warning. It's saying, well, output's not defined. My output's not defined. So a couple of things we can do. We want to define, potentially we can say output equals display. Okay, and let's see if that allows us to do that. If that's the case, then we're good. Just want to make sure that we're doing this properly. Otherwise, we can remove display altogether and just say output equals, in quotes, the text file or the script string file, or the string character message. Okay, so let's just see if this works. Looks like it's a green light. Everything looks okay. Output's defined. Stage is my input here. And let's see if, again, this is based on how I decide to define my relationship. I can define it in a different way, but I can easily just say, okay, get rid of these ampersand and just say less than or equal to 70. So I can essentially remove all this if I wanted to. I can remove all this if I wanted to, and just say less than 260 else. Okay, and again, that's just one way of approaching it. You can approach it any other way you'd like. Maybe the way I did it maybe is too redundant, but we'll find out. Okay, so let's see. We want to test this guy, so we want to say result equals, and we're going to say flight, and then I'm going to say 300. Okay, so it doesn't like it. Okay, so it doesn't like the display. So let's go back here and get rid of the display. Okay, so always when you're not sure, double check it. So I'm going to get rid of the display here. Double check that. So we don't need these guys. And then I'm going to get rid of, again, the display. And we're just going to define it as a string. And let's see if that works. Okay, make sure we save it. I'm just going to go up again and see if that works. Result is free flight. Let's do 100. Enter stage 1 flight. We do it again. Let's do stage 2 flight's going to be, let's say, 150. Oops. Don't want to do that. 150. Enter stage 2 flight, and then let's just do 200. And that's stage 3 flight. So we tested it for all situations there, and that's how you would make it a function.